Hello, Angèle again. It is November 12th, 2024. This video is titled, Remember Who You Are. That is my imitation of Mufasa from The Lion King. What a movie. Some of these movies we see as kids, like a movie where your uncle, you actually feel guilty because you think you'd killed your father, but actually someone really double crossed, like innocence. We can't imagine the amount of double crossing that occurs in our lives, in our world. You don't know what you don't know. So, like, poor Simba, he didn't know that his uncle was a bad boy. But anyway, remember who you are. That's kind of a classic. And I love the idea of remember. This video was on Sunday, the day before what in Canada we call Remembrance Day. So I thought, I'm going to do this video on Remembrance Day. But it was not to be. It was a rest and more integration day for me yesterday. I was like, oh, why am I even doing these videos? I'm feeling really just semi-flattened, actually. It was not a very productive day, although I did do a couple loads of laundry. Yay for me. But yeah, so remembering the concept that the highest versions of ourself, the most optimal integrated version of ourself knows a lot, but we kind of have to come in and be born and forget in order to have kind of the experience that I guess Earth was set up to give us to experience. There's a lot that might be said that maybe, well, the way it was intended to be set up might have gone astray, but whatever. Just the concept that we have access to remember things and like who we really are, we can remember. You don't learn. I can't go to a class or a course to teach me who I am or even how to use my gifts. And I think that's true for everyone. The education system is set up differently, and I do think suboptimally. We'll talk about that in this video also, but not right now. So Remembrance Day in Canada, it's sort of, I noticed last week, all the city buses, lest we forget, over and over, I'm like, lest we forget, I actually don't think that's an optimal sentence. I think it's better to remember who you are. And like, even the way we use our words, like, I worked quite hard to retrain myself, and occasionally I still slip up. But sometimes I used to do in my life, like, I don't want to forget this. I'm like, what am I doing? No, I'm going to remember this. I had to shift my whole way of thinking, like, no, lest we forget. It's like, remember who we are. I know that Remembrance Day was set up. I shouldn't laugh. I'm not laughing. I do take this seriously. It is to remember war. I'm like, oh, let's have an annual day. And some of the people get the day off, not everyone. Turns out in my family, some people got the day off and some people didn't. Certainly students do, and probably provincial government workers and city workers and all that kind of thing. But a lot of businesses still go. My daughter was given the choice and she chose to work and use those hours in another day of her choosing. So her workplace did that. My son, she's in Toronto, Ontario, working for a nonprofit. My son is working for an Amazon subsidiary, A Books, and he got the day off. So, anyways, BC actually has, I think, even one more day off than everybody else. Officially, I think the Truth and Reconciliation Day, September 30th. And I was there last year for that in BC. But anyway, so some people get the day off, some people don't. And we're all, I guess the whole thing was set up to remember war. It's like, what? Do we really want to remember war? I mean, there is something to be said. We don't want to keep repeating the same mistakes. And yet we keep repeating. War keeps repeating. But anyways, I think humanity is starting to figure it out. And maybe, but I do think just be mindful and really pristine with your thoughts and your words. I prefer to remember things. Like, I'm not going to say, don't forget. I'm going to say, remember. And I even did that with my kids. Like, I would catch myself like, oh, remember, you'll remember this. You remember this. Instead of, don't forget this. And that was a really common thing in my childhood. I could hear all the families and everybody would say that. So remember this, remember this, remember this. And then I have to share a little bit of a sad story, an anthropological story about little Angèle, when she was in grade one, two, and three, went to school in Northeast Calgary, which is now kind of the hood. But anyways, my parents bought a brand new house in a brand new development called Marlborough, and I went to Marlborough Elementary. I walked maybe a block and a half. And the fun story is that when I first started going to school, I would just kind of get bored. And actually, that school was interesting. They didn't have walls, they didn't have separate rooms. They had, what do you call it? Oh, I forget what they call it, open. Like there was just dividers. So like it was really easy to slip out. So I'd slip out and walk. I guess I was reminded recently by my mom that it was to my babysitters, not home. There was a babysitter to do. My brother was younger than me. He was two. And so that, yeah, anyways, I would walk home, but like for 3 days in a row, and they had to finally have an Angel strategy, like how to keep her at school. I just like, okay, I'm going back home. And nowadays, I don't think we see 5-year-old, or I would have been 6, walking to and from. And I walked to kindergarten too, to a different school called Bob Edwards. But anyways, at Marlborough Elementary, in honor of Remembrance Day, we all got in the gymnasiums. Oh, it's just giving me tears even going back to this memory. But and they would show live video footage of World War One. I just would weep. I would just weep. I don't even remember if anyone else was, but I was just weeping. So it was like, I just would forget. And then the next year, weep, weep, weep. I was weeping, weeping. It was just so horrific. It just hurt my heart so much. I was little, and I don't think I went home and said, Mommy, I cried because they showed me war footage at school. Probably never mentioned it. You just kind of have the moment and then you're out of the moment. But I was just like, that's kind of a bizarre choice to show children. But I don't know, maybe I'm from my now perspective, I do not know that that's really the optimal way to do it to honor that day. But anyway, that actually happened. So that's true story. That would have been in 1972, 73 and 74. 1972, 3 and 4. Angèle would weep during the whatever gathering in this gym in grade 1, 2, and 3 in Calgary, Alberta. So it's like that happened. So, anyways, I would encourage us to remember who we are. Like maybe we should, repurpose Remembrance Day. I know in US they call it Veterans Day, so they're making it. And then I know the saying on a license plate in Quebec is "Je me souviens." Je me souviens. I always like to think I remember myself, which is kind of a literal translation, but it means I remember. And when it's on the license plate in Quebec, they remember the French-English War back in, I don't remember the dates. I'm not very good with that, but like maybe it was the 1800s. I don't know. So, je me souviens. Everyone who drives around in Quebec gets a daily frequent reminder if they look at the license plate, but it's written right on their license plate. I think in Alberta we have wild rose country. We're wild roses. Kind of a better message, I think. We're wild rose country. We're a bunch of cowboys, cowgirls, and so Remembrance Day, remember who you are. So as I was reflecting, and I was like, well, let me show you where I went with that. Let's just do this. Let's do, well, we need to go like this and go here. Well, actually, maybe we're going to go here first. Don't believe everything you think. The thoughts, words, minds, everything is creating your reality. So that's kind of worth noting. I've probably read this one on my disabled page the most. I kind of have a funny and quirky way of getting into the topic. I'll just share, I'm going to try not to read word for word too much unless it's in bold or at the end of a article. But I did have this really, like, just to say we are teachable. We can shift in a heartbeat. And this is kind of an example. I basically was kind of channeling stories about me through me, and it kind of surprised me how this one started. Thinking, what? Like a memory that I would not have thought about hardly ever. Only once I started writing this, and when did I write this? Okay, I published it July 2014. I suspect I probably wrote it sooner. Sometimes at the end I say, anyways, who cares? Whatever. It was probably sooner than when I published it on this website. However, I was remembering when I was a teenager living in St. Albert, my brother was 3 years younger. I was probably 15. or somewhere 13, 14, or 15. Actually, I probably was in junior high, so I was probably 13 or 14. And I guess I did kind of max out in those, I was 135 pounds. So now I'm 115. So I mean, 20 pounds heavier then, but I was muscular, but I don't know. I noticed young women, there sort of is a little extra tissue, and I felt like I was chubby. I felt like I was chubby, but I probably wasn't as chubby as I felt. But anyways, I had this perception that I might be chubby. So somewhere along the way, I think I heard about inducing vomiting, bulimia. So here I was a bulimic seed thinking, that might be an option. Because sometimes I would have these little binges, like after school, blah, blah, eat, eat, eat. And I'm like, if I could just throw that up, like, I'm like, actually, that makes sense. At that time, in my thinking then, I thought, oh, yeah, I'm going to do that. So I'm thinking, I don't think putting my finger is going to do it. So I had some bizarre idea that I tied a string to a button, swallowed it. And then I thought, I'll pull it back and then I'm going to induce vomiting. It didn't work. It was kind of stuck. It wasn't getting past my epiglottis. And actually, thankfully, so this is one time. Honestly, this never happened again. And I never thought about inducing vomiting ever again. It got stopped right in its tracks right then. But my brother came along. He's like, what the hell is going on here? Or he probably didn't say it like that. He was probably a lot more polite, 11-year-old or whatever he was. And he just roared and laughed so hard. And I had to laugh too. I'm like, yeah, this is outrageous. This is completely ridiculous. So I somehow gagged out the button, never threw up, and thought, I think there's other options here. There's other options here. And I guess that's such a theme in what I'd like to share in my budding and blooming new professional life. My former professional life is long behind me, but I've always been exploring, and I guess I could call myself a visionary. I think there's lots of us having vision for the future and for how to optimize our health, our society, our systems, all these things. So, oh gosh, I lost my train of thought. My brother laughed at me. Do do do. Oh yeah, there's always another way. Like, and I figured it out. And yeah, it is what it is. And I think by grade 10, I was 120 pounds, but only because I had a job and I walked to work and I just kind of melted away to the point where my pants are falling off. But anyway, I think I sat around 125, 130 through most of my young adult life. So whatever, weight was not a problem, but I did think about it. So I just thought that was just sort of absurd. But the other thing too that I came to is I noticed that my thinking wasn't right. It was on this issue that I realized, yeah, you know what? I think I perceive this, and yet I know it's not true. I know it's not true. I remember being shocked quite regularly. Like, not so often I would see pictures of myself. Like in those days, you had to take a picture, bring it for developing. Like, I don't know, my family wasn't that big into pictures. So often it was, and I do remember one specific picture at my cousin Dennis's wedding. Like, weddings might be a time you take out the camera, or family gatherings or whatever. So I saw a picture of my whole body. I'm like, whoa, like what? I could not recognize my body. I'm like, when I look in the mirror, I see a chubby girl. And when I looked in that picture, I was like, that's a slender lady. I'm like, what happened? How come my brain works like that? So that's kind of, I guess, why I included it, because it really did just teach me. I'm like, well, you can't really take that mirror reflection seriously, because I look in that photo and then everyone tells me, oh, you're slender, you're slender. It's like, okay, well, I guess it doesn't really matter, does it? So I just kind of put that to the side. So anyways, that kind of inspired some of the beginnings of this. And then there's an India Ari video. I shouldn't really, if I play videos, it does tend to get flagged in different things. So how does that one go? Not da dun 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 dun, not the da dun 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 by the shape of my clothes. Anyways, it's a song about that kind of like, just love your body and yourself as you are. That one really had a big impact on me. I love that song. India Ari's video, and she has a lot of great inspirational music. It's empowering and nice. Anyways, you're not fat, you're just a little husky. Mind, a beautiful servant, a dangerous master. Ah, da da da. I see my curls calling again while I'm doing my video. But anyways, I'm not trying to be too long here today. We do have to be a little bit aware of our mind, and just because you think something doesn't mean it's true, and even how you perceive things might not be. So I guess that's kind of where I thought that was an interesting it surprised me, but at the same time, it made sense to me. I'm like, yeah, that was me as a young woman already saying, I don't trust everything you think, little brain. What are you doing? How come you making me feel like I'm fat and I'm not? It's like, stop that. Stop it. Just stop it. Remember Bob Newhart? Stop it. Just stop it. Eat whatever you want. And if anyone tries to lecture you about your weight, eat them too. The voice in your head that says that you can't do this is a liar. But anyways, be aware of your own words, thoughts, and how you speak about yourself. Yeah, because sometimes perception, do not believe everything you think. And to do so, at the same time, I do think we're all evolving. And at some point, maybe we can, but I don't know. It seems that the way we meant, I can certainly speak for people born in the 60s, the way we were trained and educated. I don't think I can believe everything you think. That may change at some point. Maybe it's already changed with the 2000 and the 2010 born people, but I don't know. I can only speak for myself. So it's just be aware what you think. And anyways, I have some other little things I share there, but look at this little quote. This one had a big impact on me and kind of relates a little bit to, this idea of food and being fat and what Anastasia from the Ringing Cedar series. It was book one called Anastasia, I believe it's called. Food should be absolutely of no concern to man. One should eat just as one breathes, not paying attention to nutrition, not distracting one's thoughts from more important issues. And I remember that not really noticing, like I read the book and I got really excited about that book and then ended up reading the entire series, which 9 or 10 books, like it's a lot of books. Someone lent me the first book. I ended up buying that one. And then I went to the library and read them all. I recently had rechecked if any of them were still there. And actually, I guess they probably wear down and they weren't there. I talked to the librarian because I was curious, like, was this censored? So I first wondered, oh, did they censor these books? And I'm like, wait a minute. You don't have enough information, Angèle. Angèle, go talk to the librarian about it. And then we talked really, and I realized, yeah, you know what? Those were paperback books and people might have read them. And the other thing too is if you don't return a book, which I did do once, not that long ago, I got the book out for my son who needed it for his First Nations literature class at university. And it was, I don't know, I kind of thought I want to read it. So I got it out and then we kept forgetting. And he wanted it for his work to do whatever reports he had to do. And then I ended up forgetting to return it. And then they notify you, okay, well, if you don't return, you should return it. And then one more time saying, okay, we're going to charge you $15 if you don't return it, whatever. So I ended up buying that book for $15, which actually is a pretty good deal for a book. I'm not bad deal anyway. So I own that book now. And I think I did end up returning it like long, long, long after I thought, even though I bought it, I returned it because I didn't need to own that book. So that can happen too. A person's just really enjoying the book, you just never return it, and then the library just charges you for it. So, anyways, I kind of had to stop myself saying, gosh, it was not censored. It's just books have a lifespan and da 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 da. What else? Oh, yeah. And so basically, this article is kind of me giving a little nutshell of some really powerful books. So one of them was Anastasia. I actually asked my daughter to read it. I kind of asked and told her, like, you need to read this. It will be a good book for you to be aware of. And she did. And she kind of, and I remember noticing her food behaviors changed. So then she reminded me of this quote, like, I'm like, okay, well, that's amazing. So, anyways, I thought that was funny. We eat as we breathe. Oh, yeah, she would always say, we eat as we breathe. We eat as we breathe. And I'm like, because it did make sense. Anastasia is quite, was a big mind expansion for me because she is a woman who was born in 1969. And as far as I know, still lives in Russia, kind of in a very unique way, not in society the way we know it. She lives kind of self-sufficient, self-reliant, self-responsible in a unique interrelationship with nature and even animals who they kind of have working relationships, a bear and the squirrels. Like it's a pretty cool story. I mean, it's claiming to be nonfiction, and I believe it is. I actually have had communications with Anastasia telepathically because she invites people to do that. But a really quite an optimized, so kind of started me to think, wow, they're really, I always wanted to be optimal, but I had no idea that this was on offer. But of course, this is a generational thing that took her generations for her family to set up the way they live kind of outside of society in Russia. It's phenomenal. But anyways, it's a great book. So I kind of wanted to introduce that. But then I realized that several of the books, they all kind of fell under this category, don't believe everything you think. So if you think a certain way, you create a certain way. So Anastasia is sort of saying, well, I think a different way and I create a different way. And I'm self-sufficient and powerful and healthy and vibrant and happy. And yeah, and she has a baby. Quite an interesting story, I must say. But we won't go into detail. So then what's the next one? The greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance, it's the illusion of knowledge. This is attributed to Stephen Hawking in this particular meme. However, maybe other people have said it, but I think the illusion of knowledge is a pretty big deal. It's a really enormous, ginormous phenomenon in our world. I really do believe that. We don't have to fight about it, but I do think if you think you know everything, I can pretty much guarantee that you don't. I don't, and I don't claim to, but I mean, I think we should evolve and learn and create in ways that fulfills us, hopefully serves us and others and feels good. And, just let's be natural. Like, who are you? Remember who you are. Like, you are a creator being. I like to say that. That's my way of saying. I think there's many other ways, but my very favorite um, from the series, that Anastasia series, Ringing Cedars, book 5, just a sincerely asked question, together with the parent's desire to hear their child's answer, is capable of uniting parents with their children, of making them happy forever. This joint quest for happiness is infinite, but even the beginning of the quest can be called a state of happiness. And that's Anastasia's words from page 132. Like I made it so you can actually confirm that I am correct about this. But I guess depending, as long as the paging is the same every time they make these books, but listen to me now, believe me later. But in this moment, I'm also saying, feeling like it's not just parents and children, but it could be community decision-making structures and the people that are the reason, the community can ask questions, and just everyone asking each other questions is just so powerful to hear different people's perspective and connect. I guess I just thought that was such a powerful, and I think I'd already kind of knew this. Like I was always parenting my kids, just interesting in their perspective, and when I'd hear it, it would change my own. Like, oh wow, like I never thought of it that way, and learn so much from my kids. And I do feel like, I know we kind of society traditions can say, well, we listen to your elders and we should listen to them too and be curious about their perspective too. But I do think there's a percentage of, let me just see, what percentage of, and I'm going to define elder as anyone over age 65. So over age 65, what percentage of those people feel very deeply, strongly, and connected to the idea that elder wisdom is more important than anything else? 50%? More? 60%? 70%? 80%? I'm using my pendulum. 80%? More than 80. So about 80% of those who are age 65 and over have a belief that my wisdom's better than your wisdom. And then I really believe a really trend that I encourage would be to really honor the wisdom of the children coming through now. I do feel like we're spiraling up every decade. So the kids that are born in these more recent decades, they're just hooked up different. They're set up different. They're not as bogged down. And there's people in the 60s like myself, and even the 50s, 70s, like we're working hard to settle off with ancestral traumas, all kinds of subconscious programming, mental programming that we've worked really hard. And it doesn't have to be everyone, but a subsection of people. Let's see what percentage for fun. Okay, in the 60s, what percentage of people are well on their way with this process of clearing out what isn't us and are saying, I am really deeply committed to remember who I really am. What percentage? Would that be 20? I'm getting 20, about 20%. And that 20% is like serious, man, because it just ripples out, and we're also interconnected. So when one does that, they kind of shine more true and natural to their true nature, and they influence everyone around them, everyone they come in contact with, so like this is, I think, a little different way of thinking than the way I was trained and educated in my formal education through grade school and then on to university. So I thought it's worth talking about, you know? Ah, da da. Oh, here we go. Book three of The Ringing Cedars, The Space of Love. I'm actually rereading it. I haven't been very consistent, but I am in the process of rereading that one. We are talking about thoughts pure enough to change everything. Today's reality is the result of yesterday's thinking. Anastasia. Oh, I love how that kind of went in there. Really nice. The eyes are useless when the mind is blind. I'm reading my meme here. But here's a copy of, I now own this book with this cover. The ones at the library had different covers. So I do share that someone who really was a powerful mentor to me from 2010 to 2017 liked these books. She's the one who introduced me to this book. And she paid with her own money to remake all the covers. And that you see the black with the big flower. I know her. She's lovely. Do I name names? I'm not going to name names. But anyways, she knows who she is. And some people I know will know who that is. But this didn't come up until much later. Like she said, hey, here's a book. You want to borrow it? I'm like, sure, you know. And I'm like, wow, that was really something. So it gave us lots to talk about. So, and then she had, I think she also recommended to me the Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz and A Course in Miracles by the Foundation for Inner Peace, and then the Anastasia. And interesting, I came to learn that, anyways, we'll get there. We got there, we got there, we got there. So I just thought, so the fact that she had financed the new covers didn't come up until like in the 2016, 17. Like I want to share about her a little bit just in the sense that when I got kind of labeled and incarcerated in the psychiatry system, I remember when I was already connected to this advisor. I call her my spiritual advisor, but she was officially a therapist, but not a typical one. And thank goodness for that. And I met her through a company called Univera, my good friend from medical school, Dr. Jane Carr, who is a psychiatrist, not a typical one though. She kind of made her own way with that degree. But she introduced me to the Univera products, and Layla was, oops, I said her name, was in our upline. So she brought her literally, she sat in this couch right here, Layla, Jane, myself, and I met her. And I'm like, huh, what do you do? And then the way she described it was sort of non-specific. And I'm like, oh, could I book an appointment with you? It went like that. That's how it started. So then when I was getting quote, discharged from this incarceration system, after my first incarceration in 2012, they said, you need a therapist. I go, well, I have a therapist. So that was like, ooh, got them off my back. I have a therapist. So anyway, she was a beautiful. And so she shared so much of herself as well. Like, and then I came to learn, it took me a few years. I'm like, it's not about the words. I remember thinking, I'm like, it's not about the words we speak of. And then she kind of, I could just tell by the look on her face, she's like, it's the energy, like her presence, her self-development was shared with me without words. Oh, wow. I had no idea that was going to come in today. That's pretty cool. I actually kind of made a little small intention before I did this video that I get out of my own way and not think and just let this flow. And so that is a beautiful thing to say. And I mean, I can tell you with my own experience, I'm so grateful to her because her presence came to be the way it was after 20 years or more. Like she might have been a little older than me. She must have been a decade, maybe. So 20, maybe 30 years. So somewhere her passion and her remembering who she really was well underway. And then I met her. And I didn't know who I was then. And I know more now. And maybe there's more to know. I'm really open to the fact that I think there might be a little more to learn about myself and to remember about myself. So I connected to this woman and we met quite regularly the first early years. And then after that, it might have been a couple times a year at some point, but it was always powerful. So she, just being in presence with her, and sometimes we'd actually be on Zoom because she traveled, and sometimes she'd be in Hawaii, sometimes she'd be in Bali because she owned properties there, both those places. But she did marry an Edmonton man and had a home base in Edmonton. So sometimes she'd be in person and her office was really cool. Well, anyways, so her being in presence with her, no matter what we were saying, really benefited me to help me to remember who I was. I know as we fell away, she was getting a little frustrated and I think she lost her patience with me. And actually, I'm really grateful that she did. So if she ever watches this video, like I even tried to reach out a couple years later and I didn't hear anything back because I guess she knew there was more to me, and I was a little stuck. Like when you get stuck, and if a person doesn't want to watch you in your stuckness, that's fair. And so actually it kind of was a good jar for me to go, okay, yeah, right, I get it. And it kind of, put me a little bit on the path, like, okay, I even tested the patience of my therapist. So that makes sense. And I think we all have to kind of honor the other. I can't inflict myself. She took a little bit of different approach with me and kind of let me flow, but maybe there probably wasn't as much progress as I felt there was being, right? So anyways, I think progress has occurred since, but I needed a good shake by having her just kind of like, we're done. Or I could see her losing her patience, and she was kind of um, calling me out on something that actually ended up being a really, really powerful something. But I could get it from her point of view. She's like, okay, this magical thinking has to stop. But magical thinking is an interesting word. I guess I'm just putting it in a nutshell. But anyway, that happened. And I really, really am so grateful for her and everything she shared with me. Just sharing her presence, sharing her presence. It's a big deal. Okay, where did I go next? So the Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, be impeccable. I'm not going to read out all the details, but I will link this article, Don't Believe Everything You Think, and you can review. And in a way, I feel like you could call these three books that I'm focusing on this sort of for dummies. Or you remember they do in a nutshell, like you don't necessarily have to read the book, but there's some main concepts I'm pulling out here for you to save you the time. I spent 3 months reading A Course in Miracles when it was designed to be read over a year. But anyway, and I've gone back to it at times. So the Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. First agreement, be impeccable with your word. Second agreement, don't take things personally. Third agreement, don't make assumptions. Fourth agreement, always do your best. So there's a little bit more details in there. Course in Miracles, there's my copy. I own that copy. And I also had it on Kindle. And I decided I actually wanted a physical copy as well. And here's Just Do You by India Ari. Often when I get on I will often have themes. Sometimes I have themes, sometimes I don't. Oh, here's one that I wrote way back, Lost in Translation, which is a disabled angel story. Let's just look at it. There it is. Dirk Bentley, Pride of Love. When making a book into a movie, many parts of the story are lost. Today is a new day. Love is the closest thing we have to magic. This pattern holds the key, showing a tube torus. This pattern holds the key to a world that works for everyone. A world that works for everyone. Yeah. If you want to awaken all of humanity, then awaken all of yourself. If you want to eliminate the suffering in the world, then eliminate all that is dark and negative in yourself. I actually don't like the word eliminate. I think you have to integrate the parts that you've rejected. And that's where I'm kind of at right now. Like I'm integrating parts that I had formerly rejected. And I mean, I can be so silly and lighthearted, but I can also go over to PhD physicist level too. So I can geek out and every level and gradation in between. I think we're not all one thing. We're not always on the same channel. But anyways, I'm actually particularly calm today. So that's good. I'm not as excitable as I sometimes can be. So we need to integrate the parts that we've rejected. And my most recently integrated part was my stern mother, like, "Argh!" And that was in Moose Jaw where I had my major integration. And I did not feel good for 3 days. And then I came home and then I felt better. But anyway, I recognized that I was always a little reluctant to take that out. But I mean, there is a time when you have to call things out and not just, I've always been quite reluctant to call things out unless I have a better idea. But the truth is, you can call things out. You don't always have to have a better idea. But I took it upon myself in my adult life, like when I left medicine in essentially 1997, but I think I did a couple locums in 2001, might have been my very last locum. And anyway, so I knew I had lots of big problems with it, but I didn't even go there. I'm like, well, if I don't have a solution to offer, I'm not just going to go up against the medical machine. Like, oh my goodness. And I was also probably a little chicken as well. But anyways, what did I say here? The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Yeah, I won't get into that. The only hope for humankind is the transformation of the individual. Krishnamurti. I don't think that, I wouldn't necessarily say that is the highest relevant truth, but I think there's a lot of truth there. Like you kind of have to go micro and then the macro is going to follow. It has no the way I feel reality works is when you get the inside pristine, then you can create your reality from that. I think that he's referring to that there. I know my limits. I don't pay attention to them, but I know them. And I love this picture of a girl who's obviously her heart is bleeding and she's got a bandage on. You know, it hurts our heart, I think, to if you really start digging into things and Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. This one really makes me. Growing up, I always thought that quicksand was going to be a much bigger problem than it turned out to be. I literally remember that. It would show up in cartoons as like people, oh, I'm in quicksand. Ah, help me. I've never stepped in quicksand and need to rescue me. Live and let live. Always speak the truth, even if your voice shakes. All great truths begin as blasphemies. Really, this was a very early, it's loaded and I'm not afraid to use it in my heart. In the end, we all become stories. Everything is connected. Everything is connected. I really believe that. So I wrote this story, Lost in Translation, and I put the Bible on a cue card. I guess I could read the cue card. But anyways, it's older work of mine and it's going to hold that place. Food for thought anyway. Where's my Bible on a cue card? I think I summarize it here somewhere. Bible on a cue card. It's a little bit of a touchy subject. Like I do have my son now exploring the Bible. So I had a little bit of a cast asideness attitude about the Bible. I felt I was getting direct information saying, you know, the idea of translating, if you have a certain level of expansion and awareness and you write something and then someone from a less expanded, less aware, I think that's really probably the biggest message that I'm going to emphasize here today about my Lost in Translation story. It is a true, sort of a true story of how it came to be. But anyway, um, yeah, so like they probably will not be able to capture it. So if they're going from, they might know this language, they might know this language, but one is at this level of expansion. And I'm just, for demonstration purpose, one that more expanded and one's less expanded. So if they're the translator, they're probably not going to be able to translate the energy, although maybe the energy does follow. That's kind of a curiosity that I would have. But when you write something, when an author writes something, some of their energy goes into that book, that those words, those sentences. So energy does transmit, and it's not about the words, kind of like with my presence with Layla. So I do feel a little bit of concern that we can get really interested in the words, and I know Bible and other sacred texts, there's different ways to interpret it, different ways to translate it. And I do sometimes feel some compassion for the fact that we can get really heated in some of these discussions about these words. Bible in a cue card, are you wanting to be found today? Oh, I thought I had you summarized. I'm just, okay. Oh no, we're not going to do that. Anyway, Bible on a cue card. Okay, we're not going to worry about Bible on a cue card. Lost in, I think we're just going to close that. And we were back here. And I linked that in because A Course in Miracles is claimed to be a channeled work, channeling Jesus Christ, the words of Jesus Christ in the 1970s. And it was a team of 3 people who worked to bring down these words and put them in. I can't say that I necessarily recommend A Course in Miracles, but if it calls to you, fine. It really called to me. I mean, it was given to me by my my therapist, and I came to learn that she never read the whole thing. And when I learned that many years, I'm like, what? You never read the whole thing? So like me and I just like, I would get, it kind of helped me to learn about myself. One of my, I don't know if it's my gift or our gift, a gift that I kind of came in tune with. I would read it, blah, 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 garbly, 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 and then something would light up. I'm like, ooh, that one's important, and that one. So I kind of had this interesting experience of reading through it really fast. But it's also, I think the main, what I feel did for me is it helped you to be aware you have subconscious beliefs and they may not be who you truly are. That's the bottom line. So it's kind of 3 books in one, this version here. Like there's a workbook for students, manual for teachers, clarification of terms and supplements. So the workbook for students was designed every day. There'd be a page and then there might be some little thing to read. Anyway, I go into that more detail in there, but I went through it really fast, the whole thing in 3 months, just because I felt like there's something in here, and I would get, things would light up, things would light up. And I do have a favorite page, and I will share that with you shortly. But here's some examples of some of the things you would be asked to repeat, maybe once a day, maybe 3 times a day. So I picked through just for fun. So unlearn, the bottom line, unlearn all that you have learned. But this is talking about subconscious deprogramming, unprogramming your subconscious mind. I don't think that's that easy to do. And I think there are other ways to do it. For me, I think this was a tool that assisted me. And it may or may not assist you. So like there's other ways to do it. So I do think that's very valid to point out, to be aware that our subconscious beliefs, patterns, and programs may not be optimal. They've come from outside and they aren't necessarily the optimal beliefs, patterns, and programs for our true essence, natural state. So that's what I'm trying to say today. Ha, ha, ha. So A Course in Miracles, lesson 27. Above all else, I want to see. Vision has no cost to anyone. It can only bless. Are we seeing reality clearly? That's kind of a tricky one to answer, because you see it the way you see it, and another person sees the way they see it. But we're all patterned and programmed, and a lot of us have been patterned and programmed in the same way. So it's like I've always saying about this optimal collaboration, you need a round table, but you don't want everyone thinking the same around that table. Then you're just going to amplify the patterns and programs and beliefs. Whereas if we do need multiple perspectives and different ways of thinking. And what is the optimal? Is there such a thing as optimal? I believe there is. But at the same time, I also believe in freedom. So freedom to choose. So that I do feel like when there's a more optimal setup in our world, I think there's going to be a lot more freedom. Like a person might really love the Bible and want to go all out on the Bible, and that's fine, absolutely fine with me. I might even enjoy joining in on that. I don't have a problem at all listening to thoughtful discussions about meaningful things, deep things that are important to the individual and how they relate in community and in family with others. So anyway, Course in Miracles, lesson 75, the light has come, I have forgiven the world. So I just gave a little sampling of the kind of way they speak in this book. I am not a body, I am free. That was a big one, and they're really pushing that one at the beginning. I remember thinking, what? Like, I am a body? I'm not a body? What? I do feel like I can kind of appreciate what that's referring to. Just the fact that our truest essence is not our body. Our truest essence is our consciousness. And that's a pretty big deal. And we embody our bodies with our consciousness, but our true self is sort of a consciousness more than a body. And the body will reflect the consciousness to greater or lesser degrees. And in the optimal, ideal world, I think we'll all align, and our bodies will become like the truest essence reflection of our true state of being, true essence. What you perceive in others, you are strengthening in yourself. Kind of peeking at the judgment issue. If you judge something in others, it's probably in you. Anyways, that's something we all have to ponder a little bit here and there. Keep a completely open mind, washed of all past ideas and clean of every concept you have made. You can look upon the world as if you never saw it before. You merely wait to have it shown to you. Yeah, so like letting go of preconceived ideas. I just listened to a 30-minute video today by Charles Eisenstein. I'm not at all familiar with his work, but somehow I just felt to watch this 30-minute video of his. And he's basically encouraging Americans, post-election, to not be too clinging too tightly. He had a really gentle, uplifting, I could see how it was very calming for many people. So I thought that was great. I'm not needing that calming. I mean, the election in America, I took notice, but I didn't really have that much of a reaction. It's like, oh, that happened. Good. Good, or, it is this way. So I accept that. I am under no laws but God's. I'm entitled to miracles. If I defend myself, I am attacked. That one had a big impact on me. I think that was really helpful to me, because there is that tendency. I want to be understood. I want to defend myself. I want to market myself. It's like, I'm no good at that. I just need to be myself. I need to know myself, remember who I am, and then I can act naturally in relation to others. I don't have to be so defensive, because I was very defensive after being labeled and incarcerated. I think a lot of people who have that happen to them also get that way. It doesn't result in therapeutic alliances, and it actually even makes it hard for your family. But if your family believes what they've labeled you as, it is a little bit of a challenge, I must say. But my favorite page in A Course in Miracles is definitely lesson 136. Sickness is a defense against the truth. Do I read it? I'm not going to read it, but it is available for you to read. So that is my very favorite page. There it is. Just the idea that even sickness, I guess in a nutshell, I'm just going to put it in a nutshell, this lesson 136. Sickness is a defense against the truth. So when your body is giving you messages, oh, you're a little off, you're a little off, and then you don't, it's just needing something to reconcile, resolve, integrate, and then you refer to your natural state, which doesn't have illness. So the whole idea that you're keeping secrets from yourself if you're sick. Think about that. I actually came to that idea. I'm like, I know that I keep secrets from myself, and I still do. My highest version of myself is like, you can't handle the truth. I don't know, like I don't know it all, or there's more to be known. I keep secrets from myself. It's a bizarre concept, but this kind of is very worthy of reading. I do think there's something really powerful here about what is sickness. Like an optimal, aligned, embodied human being just would never get sick. I believe that. I really do. And if you do, you can align and find whatever you need to restore your health and even heal yourself, self-healing. The mind is so powerful that if you believe some things, you actually can get sick, and you could even get chronically ill. You can even be that much keeping secrets from yourself that you could actually get sick and stay sick and die earlier than you would have if you had optimal health. So it's kind of an interesting concept. Let's skim over. We're taking too long. Every situation properly perceived becomes an opportunity to heal. Yeah, that's worth pondering, let me tell you. Loving people live in a loving world. Hostile people live in a hostile world. Okay, to listen to your heart is to step into a world of miracles. Every loving thought is true. Everything else is an appeal for healing and help, regardless of the form it takes. The spell can be broken just by asking yourself, is what I'm believing true? The questions, I think, oh yeah, I was thinking of Charles Eisenstein because I happened to watch a little something. The reason why I caught all of a sudden interested in him is the way he was titling his videos was talking about solutions orientation, which is what I'm all about. I really want to develop myself to be one of those people at the round table, having a valid and powerful ability to express a perspective and be part of collaborative solutions that work for everyone. So that's why. So he was talking about questions, reminding me, yeah, like I've long said, when you ask the optimal question, then you can receive the optimal answer. So I think at the early stages, you have to question your questions. Is that truly the optimal question? And another thing that came through Layla was she shared a quote with me, and I just wrote it down right there. It was attributed to a woman named Ruth Cohn or Kuhn. I can't remember if it's with a U or an O. We have much to do. We must go very slowly. And I remember that one kind of like had me twisted. What do you mean? But I've now come to recognize, yeah, like if we're so tangled and if we kind of head off on, with like a bat out of hell and whatever, okay, here's our solution, let's go. And that's what I've kind of seen when I reflect on the way governmental decisions get made and things get enacted and off we go. And now we've just got another thing to untangle. So at some point we might have to say, okay, stop tangling everything up. Stop it. Don't tangle it up anymore. Stop, 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 stop. The mother, stop it. Don't tangle anymore. Stop. Pause. Reflect. Remember who you are. It might take a while. And then, or maybe work in collaborative groups where you really, like, we need to, now that we've got it all this tangled, maybe we should take a little more care to not rush into the next solution where it's just going to have another tangle to untangle. So I think that's how I feel that is a powerful quote. We have much to do. We must go very slow. I mean, we would be probably a good idea to go more slowly than maybe what we've become accustomed to. And I kind of had trouble. And even in my own personal journey, I had a tendency, like, I want it all right now. I want it all right now. And that's kind of how I landed up incarcerated. I got myself into quite an altered state of consciousness because I was doing so much so fast. And even against the advice of other people I was working with saying, that's a lot of clearing in 1 week. I'm like, but I want to clear it all. Now that I know there's something to clear. And then now all the energy is flowing through me. And it did, I do believe it did it was a self-healing mechanism. It's just, it was a lot and it wasn't graceful. I wouldn't recommend it. And maybe it's not even as possible in the year 2024 as it was in 2012 when that happened to me. So yeah, like, yeah, self-healing mechanism. Sometimes the remedy can be a little, what do you call it? Jarring, a little overwhelming, a little flattening. I'm in bed. Oh, I can't even move. I don't have any energy because all this energy is flowing through me. And now all my distortions and traumas are flowing out of me so fast that I got locked up in a psychiatry hospital. Whoopsie. Whoopsie. Anyway, nothing in the world can bother you as much as your own mind. I tell you, in fact, others seem to be bothering you, but it's not others, it is your own mind. Food for thought. Okay, when you no longer believe everything you think, you step out of thought and see clearly that the thinker is not who you are. Eckhart Tolle, I mean, he kind of became famous with some of his messages. Byron Katie as well. There is a way of seeing without projection, and it's beautiful. Yeah, excuse me, I'm burping, so I must be clearing myself. That's kind of a sign of clearing. Excuse me. It's impossible. I like this Andrea Bocelli. But he sings in Somos novios. One common mistake is to think that one reality is the reality. You must always be prepared to leave one reality for a greater one. Mother Mira, I met her. That's not the picture I took, though. I mean, I took this off her website, but I did meet her. I had met someone who told me about her, and I thought, wow, this avatar and how her presence. The biggest thing that really stuck to me, he was a computer guy by day, and then he would volunteer hours to Mother Mira, and they were building buildings like for orphanages and various charitable works. He would work so hard, like he wasn't really that. He was relatively fit, but I mean, the kind of work he was doing, I mean, he remembers sitting. He told me this. I was sitting on the bench, and then Mother Mira just came and sat beside him, and he got completely filled up, and all his energy returned. So he couldn't help but notice. So I guess it's worth saying, yeah, sure enough, that I don't know if I wrote that in there. I might have. The idea that something, however Mother Mira had developed herself and remembered who she was, just by her presence, and many people who were working with her in these building works would notice, yeah, like, so she would just kind of wander around and re-energize everybody so they could work harder to build the things. But I thought, well, that was fascinating. It caught my interest, and I was curious, and I looked at her website and I wondered, oh, will I go see her? And then one day I noticed, I don't even know how it came to me, that she was here in Edmonton. So I went and saw her here in Edmonton, bought some incense and some cards, and I did the darshan. I stood in line in a very, 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 very long line to stand. And then my turn came, and then we look into each other's eyes. She doesn't say a word. And that was it. That's called, I think it's from Hindu, darshan. So I did darshan. I remember thinking, well, did that do anything? I wasn't sure. But to be honest, it was an interesting experience. And so I have looked into the physical eyes of Mother Mira. But I do think the more powerful, I have a couple other mentors who were probably more powerful for me than Mother Mira. But I just, you get curious, like, oh, how does this work? Let me look into her eyes. I mean, she had so many people to do, but for all I know, if I hadn't looked into the eyes of Mother Mira, I might not be sitting here in this state as remembered as I am right now. Like, I don't know. It's hard to, and we don't have to. We don't have to. But I do think that concept is valuable. Being in presence. So all the presence I had with Layla was really, really powerful for me. Let truth be what it is. Do not intrude upon it. Do not attack it. Do not interrupt its coming. Let it encompass every situation and bring you peace. So if you don't feel peaceful, maybe you're not there yet. Okay, let me just use I've always felt that in this moment in Angel 2024 version. Is that true? I feel like it is true. If you aren't feeling peaceful, then you're probably not there yet. It's okay. It's totally fine. Like, hello, join the club. Not even faith is asked of you, for truth asks nothing. Let it enter, and it will call forth and secure for you the faith you need for peace. But rise you not against it, for against your opposition it cannot come. And then I shared this once on a Facebook page, and the author replied with, your understanding is not a very powerful contribution to the truth. So that's a pretty true statement. for most of us also. Your understanding, but I think as we develop, maybe our understanding starts to become a little bit more powerful contribution to the truth. But in that moment, when he said that to me, that was true. And is it true now? Well, let me see. Let me just do my thing. I never thought to ask that. Was that true in the moment? Yes, it sure was. So his wisdom kind of called me out. And I'm like, whoa, I got called out. Okay. I felt called out. I don't know if he really meant to do that. He just shared some other wisdom. I put some wisdom, he put some wisdom, like, nice. Um, I'm just going to ask for myself, is my personal understanding, Angèle Baudouin, understanding today, a very powerful contribution to the truth in 2024 right now? And I get a yes. Yeah, I guess you might feel otherwise, but anyway. Be a lover of what is, and the war is over. That's Byron Katie. Reality is always benevolent. Let me just vibe that. Reality is always benevolent. Is reality always benevolent? See, that truth is not totally easily accessible necessarily at all times, but oppose nothing and you will find peace and love. Oh yeah, so this be a lover of what is and the war is over, Byron Katie's quote, I rewrote to oppose nothing and you will find peace and love. I actually don't think that's the highest version translation anymore. Okay, let me see. In this moment, what would be a better way to translate be a lover of what is and the war over? Remember who you are, and then you can start to powerfully contribute to truth and reality. There we go. See, Mama changes. Mama does evolve. Woo! When something new comes, I do get excited because I'm like, frick, I wrote this decade ago, like for F's sake, like, I get frustrated, like, I want more participating in a more what feels nourishing, supportive, and helpful way and collaborative way. I want to collaborate in this world. But like, how can you collaborate with some of these systems? They're just like, it's not allowed. You don't have the PhD that you need to collaborate with us. And like, you guys are messing it up. You're tangling everything up. Stop it. Stop that. Yeah, nirvana is when we are accurately perceiving our reality. How do I feel about that today? Yeah, I remember really waffling back and forth on this little bit that I say at the end. I think if you're seeing real, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't matter what I say about that right now. You spin me round, that famous song. You spin me round, round, baby, right round like a record, baby, round, 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 round. As much as I want to click on that and let them sing it, I'm just going to sing it. I'm going to try singing them so that I don't get blocked in undefined territories. So YouTube always tells me you're not going to be seen in two territories. Which territories? I don't know. It seems like Canada's not one of them. So yay for me. Oh yeah, I do like this one, but I don't think the idea of misperception of reality. When everyone shares a misperception of reality, it is the ultimate challenge for anyone to change and see correctly using ACIM terms. Yeah, like I really geeked out on some quoting. Like I was into quotes back then, really bad. And I still less so, much less so now. Make my own quotes, my own quotes. What's my latest? What did I do? Oh, I'm forgetting. I just made a new two-liner. And one of the lines is here. I saw this. My daughter was involved. She works for this group. I see it. If you say it, it says ISIS, but it's ICES. They say ICES, and it's a pretty cool, interesting organization. She's taught me a lot via her experience there. So she was involved with picking out this example. She doesn't appear in this video, but she was involved with the creation of this video. But I really love this. Data can change conversations. Oh yeah, there we go. I'm consistent. I've been saying for a long time, which I actually got this from Jason Silva. We need to raise the stage and change the conversation. And I'm going to add data can change conversations. We do need data. We need reliable data, like, and that can be argued too. But I mean, I think with an intention of looking at our data, what's the quality of our data? And I think that would be helpful. We need to raise the stage, change the conversations, and data can and will change conversations. We do need data. We need multiple perspectives. We don't want a whole bunch of people who think alike sitting at round tables proclaiming things at us. because it's made a tangled mess and we need to start untangling. So anyways, I did, this is a little bit of a humble brag, I guess. I'm really proud of my daughter. She's amazing. Ta-da. I'm proud of all of all my kids are amazing. And I just happened to talk to her over the weekend and she shared that little clip with me and I was quite inspired. So I was over here. So the forgiveness, Don Miguel Ruiz, forgiveness is the only way to heal. So this is a quote off. I've never done another quote off, but I did a quote off in this. And I guess what I'm trying to allude to is like, there's truth. This is true and it's relatively true. And then this is also true. There may be a more expanded, more optimal version of the truth, but like to fight about, oh, that's true, that's not true. So I do feel like forgiveness is the only way to heal is a relative truth. And then I do kind of see a more expanded version of forgiveness isn't overlooking what you've done to me. Forgiveness is seeing correctly that you've done nothing to me and you are innocent, so there is nothing to forgive. So I kind of like to make that forgiveness is a really important thing and it's something we do for ourselves. But as you expand and take in perspectives, what I find, so I'm really right now in this moment seeing why I'm going to do falling off the edge as after this. Interesting. Yeah, so I'm always a little bit, I need nourishment, I need newness. So anyways, the fact that I'm talking about this comes into it in the falling off the edge. Yeah, because I've run into some interpersonal problems where people just kind of assume, kind of project themselves onto me and they think, well, if you're not mad about that, like there's something wrong with you. It's like, but when you see everything and you see all the multiple things at play, you're like, oh yeah, man, that's pretty effed up. Like kind of messed up and it's all tangled up. And I don't really know what the solution is, but I've come to learn that speaking, having a conversation with someone when there's something gone a little awry. But I didn't know how to explain it then, so I actually, what inspired me to do the article Falling Off the Edge on my Bovera website, it was really about this kind of stuff. Like I was feeling that in my interpersonal life. I even wondered if I was going to use some nicknames and describe some of what was going on, but I ended up not. But anyways, I do remember what was behind that. And it was related to this, where I had someone drop me like a hot potato, a dear, 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 dear friend. And I still would be open to friendship with her. But I think I've been dropped like a hot potato. Can't remember if it's 2 times or 3 times. But that first time, that one hurt. It hurt, and yet I'm like, I don't know really what to do with this. And I think there was even a lack of bravery, like to have the conversation the way where I was at then would have just taken quite a long time. She potentially would have been committed. She was one of all my friends, I would say she's the one who I've probably had the deepest long conversations with. Like we've really reviewed some stuff. But when it came to something between us, it was definitely not, I mean, maybe a lot of other people would have taken her approach more than mine. But I just have this real connection to like no human left behind. And so she wanted to leave a human behind and I was not, it's not like in that particular case, I ended up, because it wasn't just her. I had about 3 or 4 or 5 people telling me like, you really shouldn't be interacting with this person. And I finally decided to take all of their advice. However, it's not like I wrote him off forever. And I think when she realized that I hadn't, that bothered her a lot, a lot. And then she dropped me like a hot potato, told everyone she knew about it, all her personal and closest friends. So then when we became friends again, I came to learn that she had done this, like just talking, dissing me and my approach. I didn't really take the opportunity to explain because I'm just like I didn't really know how to handle it. So anyways, and then we did reconnect in as deep a way as we ever did. So then she had to share, and then so all her friends are going, what? You're friends with her again? And so she had to defend herself. So I kind of thought that was slightly funny and ironic. Like I'm like, yeah, like they're like, what? No way. You're friends with her again after what she did to you? I didn't do anything to her. It's just that someone else did. And I had compassion for that, what he did and why he did it. I could give you a little bit of details. It involved a young man and a little bit of misunderstanding and miscommunication. There was a plan, but the plan involved a friend who I kind of assumed was a guy, because some names are kind of go both ways, but it was a girl, and that girl was his lover. And so things happened, and he did something to my friend that was not cool. And it just kind of, sometimes everything just rolled in, like they rolled into a town hours later than their plan. And so everyone's asleep, and that was the place they were going to be staying. But he had his own bed in the van. So he just wanted to drop my friend at 2 in the morning. And I'm like, yeah, that's not cool. And if it was me, I'd probably say, hey, I'm not going into a stranger's home while they're all asleep. I'm going, take me to the nearest motel. So I could, and I did tell her that eventually, but it still bothered her. Like she just thought, wow, he did that to me. And the other thing I knew is he had a brain injury. So that's the other thing is I just kind of knew maybe and then when I told her that, she goes, oh, I didn't know that. Or no, she told me that he had a brain injury. So anyway, all of it kind of comes together, go, oh yeah, look at what happens. What a mess. Like, I get it. I get it from his perspective. He was a much younger man than us. Like young man, he has his girl from afar has just landed on the airport. Well, the first thing he wants to do is have a conjugal visit, and he couldn't do that with my friend in the vehicle. At least, I mean, some people could, but he couldn't. So anyways, like that's what's behind this falling off the edge. So I'm just like, oh man, what do I do in this world? Like shit. So yeah, I mean, the fact of that young man's brain injury, he was throwing his power around in a way that somehow I was the only one who could sort of see some good in him, and everybody else could see this other. So then I thought, okay, I am naive, and I'm going to just listen to all my friends' advice, and I'm not going to allow him to stay at my property or my home, because he did stay at my home for about 3 nights. But anyway, it's like, ooh, things you do, things that happen. But yeah, I feel like I didn't really cause a major problem to anyone's privacy. I'm really worried about that, and it kind of tangles me up. But anyway, falling off the edge. I think I'm just going to introduce you to this article, but the Falling Off the Edge is the name of a song. I might actually play that one. Let me see, just to give you a little taste of how it sounds. Yeah, just hearing that much puts me in that. I called it my compassion song, and I would at times would play that song just for this kind of stuff, and I would just like, I'm not trying to do any solution. I'm just oozing with compassion over the complexity and the tangles. And so I would do sessions, compassion sessions with that song. I'd play that song, I'd listen to it, I'd hold my hands over my heart, and tears would usually flow. And actually, I have some tears just listening to that little bit, because I've done this so much. Just listening to that little bit like brings tears to my eyes. But there's different kind of tears. Today, there's like a really unique feeling, the way the tears are welling in my eyes. Anyway, like it's kind of like a Pavlov's dog kind of song for me. And I actually haven't done one for a long time, but now I realize I'm going to do one because I really enjoy it. It felt good, but it kind of like it was such a complex emotions, like so many emotions, not just one. No one word would express compassion. And I think in this, I do try to describe, how complex compassion feels to me, that compassion as a word alone, there's just so much emotions. Like, I don't know, this idea of compassion as a superpower. For me, I do believe it's a superpower. But I get kind of geeky in this article. So this, and then the idea that I titled it Falling Off the Edge, kind of alluding to this human journey that at some point, we kind of have to fall off the edge of everything we've known. Like you just have to kind of let go. Like get out of your own way. I had to get out of my own way just to do this video the way I did it. And it has already delivered several surprises for me. And I was trying to make it under an hour, and let's see, I better go a little faster. So I think I'll just kind of, but this idea of brain sync, using 100% of your brain. I've linked the same one, I think, here and here. Let's see. No, I just corpus callosum. So the corpus callosum is that pathway of nerve fibers that connect the right and left brain. So I on my own directly just realized that whole brain thinking, hemisphere synchronization is a really big deal. Yeah, that's the same. That's the one. Twice twice. So anyways, I'm not going to show it to you now, but Bruce Lipton, that's a 9-minute video. Like if you have 9 minutes, it's linked there and is also linked there. Do, do, do. And there's a nice picture sort of showing how, to me, that's just symbolic of how we swim through the waters, and it's kind of mysterious. We don't always know everything. We have to get comfortable with uncertainty, and at times maybe let go of comfort. Like we don't always have to be comfortable. And if you're always comfortable, I would challenge you that maybe you could be not remembering yourself as fully as you might like, because you might find your life and your world and your health will all go better if you remember yourself better. And I many times talk about my analogy that we really are creative beings. We're more like film projectors than camera taking a still shot of physical things that are just there. Oh, and then you know what's another unique thing about this song, or this article, Falling Off the Edge. It's the only time I wrote an article that resulted in a playlist all by itself. And the playlist is called Whole Heart, Beautiful Truth. So you need your whole brain, but you also need your whole heart. You need your whole heart. And I know it's tough because I think to be a human, our heart, we kind of have to protect ourselves just to survive, right? Like I know I have like the idea of heart blocks, heart walls, all kinds of things kind of corded into our heart. Like it's a really big deal from a multidimensional point of view. But to open your heart and have a clear and true heart, it's no small task. And you know, I think I'm doing okay. My heart is open now more than it ever was. But you know, I always keep getting a sense it can open a little bit more. I know you can't see me, but I'm just going to take can my heart open more? And I get a yes. My heart is not fully open yet. I always add the yet. So these kind of questions you want to ask yourself, like, is my heart fully open? Can my heart open more? And I bet you. And so anyways, my heart breaks open sometimes, and that's good. It breaks open. Oh, look at, I wrote something, an inspired writing that was channeled through me about break your heart open. Yeah, so that's an option for you to explore if you wish. No one's truth is more authentic than your own. And I think that is it. We're getting down to like, we really need to know ourselves, because a lot of messaging kind of tries to tell you who you are, but no, I think we're all a little more diverse and unique than we have been trained to believe. So, 4-point logic, I do like that one, that concept. Like, it's just not black and white. And here, this little meme. So it shows how this shape is giving different shadows depending how you look at it, from which angle and perspective you look at it. That's where the truth. I love to use the analogy of like a really giant, big, multifaceted jewel, like maybe a diamond, but diamonds don't tend to come that big, but like a really big jewel with so many facets on it. So each perspective is valid and true. And then as we collect the perspectives, we get a better, more optimal vision of the truth. So I think this little meme shows like it can look like, if you argue up and down that this is a circle, well, from that perspective, it looks like a circle if you were looking from here, and it looks like a square from here, and it looks like a triangle from here. So the perspective with which you see is unique and it is valid, and hopefully it's authentic. And, you know, we do our best to clear our lens that we view from. And I say lens in kind of a complex way, not just our physical vision, but also our other senses that might not be so, not the 5 physical senses, but those extrasensory perceptions that we all have. And some of us kind of start ignoring them, but others develop more awareness about how those perceive. What does this one go to? Truth. Sometimes I forget. Oh, truth is relative. Oh, I made a poem on Bovera. I forgot about that one. Yeah, anyway, I guess I have never read that over. Leap of faith. The more of us that choose to take this leap of faith and collaborate, coordinate the shift, the quicker the higher harmony can be experienced. Let's just see what leap of faith goes to. Ah, Shepherd Geronimo. That's a good video. Let's see if that 2 seconds is going to get me flagged. Probably. And MacGyver, and it links to an example of MacGyver TV show, which shows how resourceful he could be, and it was hilarious. Oh yeah, so solve the problems creatively as they come into attention. These are 2 concepts that I think are really relevant. Open data and copyright. Copy space right, R-I-G-H-T. So open data is just the idea that if we can really share our data very freely and optimally. Like right now, there's a lot of little tiny red tapes, and well, some of them huger, like censorship is a bit of a problem. But if to share data freely, I think can in the long run will be good. Although I know because of our financial system and the way it's set up, many people really need feel, and I don't deny anyone, if you want to, you need to put food on your table, absolutely. And the system, the way it works now, they might need to put their information and messages and perspective behind a paywall, or and then they want to, like, they don't even let me listen to 1 minute clips on YouTube with a song, which I would love to be injecting more 1 minute clip or even 30-second clips of songs. But the copyright, without the space, copyright laws, some of the musical, and I do appreciate that it probably is challenging when everyone's kind of using your creative stuff in whatever way that they want, and some of which you might not approve of. But I do think we're heading to a world where we will learn to copy space RIGHT, and we can share our data openly. The whole concept of open data is just a freaking good one. The more you see open data type setups, that's where innovation and solutions can be so magically developed, in the right collaborative people or self-choosing to be involved with certain data. And then there's just, everyone geeks out in their own way. And when you find someone who's really geeked out about whatever it is, and then they collaborate a few other ones who really are passionate about whatever topic it might be, like what's the best flush toilet? Like, I'm just using that as a total silly example, but yeah, anyway, whatever, you get what I mean. A couple of key concepts that will enable, so I'm talking about open data, copyright, a couple of key concepts that will enable the solution to be brainstormed on the fly. Our systems of individual help are so one-on-one. In the allopathic, integrative, and alternative models, I see the need to be able to optimize people in groups. There are optimal ratios that will change as we get more adept at this. Facilitators to facilitated. Yeah, anyways, I have a big dream about I seem to be aware that I am capable of allowing, I guess I should say, a transcendence, a transformation that could occur in maybe initially not that large a group, but could even be stadiums worth of people. But it would require a team, proper teams and the right ratios, and that would shift and change as we all shift and change. So anyways, I have been given this vision, and it's like, oh, so I write about that there a little bit. Educating the individual on the importance of their connecting to their film projector function, their creator function. What's that? What's that? Oh, Patrick Watson, Lighthouse. I love Patrick Watson. I attended a concert of his at the Winspear, which is our highest quality place to listen to concerts. And I saw him live, and I'll have to say that was the best, my favorite I'm, oh, wait a minute. The best concert I ever felt. It was very multidimensional, very, like, some of these musicians are amazing sound healers in their own right. And I really felt that. I had never heard of him before. A friend of mine said, "Hey, I think you might like this. Let's go." So we went to the concert together. I think it was shortly after seeing Coldplay together, because I had a ticket for my daughter and I to see Coldplay when they came to Edmonton. And then it turned out my daughter said, I'm not that excited about this. And so I brought my friend, and so we had a good time. That was a really good concert too, in a different way. But like, oh, Patrick Watson, that one just got into my cells. Coldplay was a really good concert though too. Oh, and here's one that I think the YouTube video has been taken down. And if it isn't, I'd be so happy. Yeah, it was such a cool video where they did Let Me Fall by Josh Groban. And it was people pole dancing in space. Like, it was just the best. So because now this video isn't there, I should tell you it was all about pole dancing. So I did kind of have fun with the idea of we all have to learn to dance on our poles. A woman needs to dance on her pole, and a man needs to dance on his pole. Maybe sometimes we'll dance on the same pole, but maybe not. But let's see. It is my dream to collect willing facilitators to get started on the synergistic collaboration of open data. Ideally, before large numbers of the population have connected to their need for this, let us get a jump start. Oh, no, 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 where'd it go? Da, 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 dee, oh. Da, 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 no, no, da, na, 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 da, 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 da. You gotta give it a jump start. Hell, that's a really good video, guys. Click on that, honestly. But I think they might be more, I mean, I kind of know the more savvy musicians are more likely to give me some kind of warning or limit my exposure of my own film. But Let Me Fall by Josh Groban. So anyways, there's a playlist and I will link it. It's called, okay, I also have I'm going to be linking Where the Wild Things Are. I think that was a fun one, but actually this one, Whole Heart, Beautiful Truth. And so, oh, that's a really good song. They're all good songs. So I have this particular one. I honestly can't remember if I made the list first. I think it was I wrote this article, made a playlist called Whole Heart, Beautiful Truth, and I also have a YouTube version. So I will link those two because I really wanted to play this To Be Human. I'm just going to show you. I have it all set up, but I bet you this one's going to be, I could be striking every country with this one. I know that movie Wonder Woman. I just wanted to be reminded, Wonder Woman, a really powerful movie for me. And I saw that movie with that dear collaborative friend that I was referring to, who kind of, her dropping me like a hot potato kind of made me write this article. So we went to that together right after it was released. There is a scene in there. Oh yeah, and I think it's linked in this article. So to be human is to love, even when it gets too much. I won't give up. Anyway, I practiced that before coming here, but anyways, I can't off the fly. I can't just sing that song. But anyways, I will have the playlist linked, and you can look at the YouTube version or the Spotify version. But the YouTube version is better for some of these songs. Where did I not talk about? Oh yes, that's going to come in. Where's that To Be Human? I just wanted to see. Okay, there is a scene in the movie Wonder Woman. I feel like it is linked in here, but I can't remember where. But it's a scene where she goes up and she's going on no man's land and they're all shooting at her and she's holding her guard. I broke down and wept so deeply in the movie. And then every time I watch that little clip, it's like so powerful to me. And what it says to me is, just the tangled up reality as we live in it now. I don't think it's optimal, but I mean, it is what it is. And women have had to become so fierce now. It's like, oh, I know a lot of men kind of, are like a little dismayed that we're not more ladylike, but like, what the frick are we supposed to do? But just the fact that she's like, okay, none of these men are going to do it. I'm going to do it. And of course, she's got gifts. She's a little bit extra talented and she's got that fancy shield. So anyway, she takes on and changes the whole scene just by one woman saying no. I say no. There's people getting victimized in that town and I'm going to do something about it now. So I think it partly just spoke to me so tenderly because that's been a challenge for me. I'm not as brave as Wonder Woman. I don't perceive my shield to be as strong as hers, but truly it probably is metaphorically, like we just have to really remember who we are and then be ourselves. So that's, anyway, a little aside. So where were we? You will never be able to escape from your heart. So it is better to listen to what it has to say. I mean, follow your heart is such a good one. And then the lyrics of hope, let me fall, falling off the edge of the illusion that I'm simply a camera when in fact I function more like a film projector when I return to my natural state. So that's it. So here all this whole playlist, the lyrics of hope from Let Me Fall, falling off the edge has no lyrics, of the illusion that I'm simply a camera when in fact I function more like a film projector when I return to my natural state. The one I want, the one I will become will catch me. And that's from Let Me Fall lyrics. Tell yourself this, believe it. It will be optimal for you. I guarantee it. Music is a beautiful doctor for the soul. And I will say, remember who you are. Remember who you are. It is possible that many people who are embodied and alive right now on earth have never heard the vision of how an optimal human being can function. And so I offered in my Don't Believe Everything You Think a few ideas to think about and hear, like, it's a really big deal to actually be who you really are. I really think so. I try to say I feel instead of I think, yet I have not quite got that one straight. Oh yeah, here we go. And it is here, the Whole Heart Beautiful Truth Spotify playlist and the Whole Heart Beautiful Truth YouTube version playlist, handpicked, field tested by me. And this is my, what do you call it? The picture that represents my Music is the Doctor Facebook page where I express myself in different ways. Optimal songs can help to connect to the warrior spirit within, to gain the courage to walk straight into the storm in order to get through it in the quickest and most efficient manner, which is how buffalo will choose to do it. They'll go straight into a storm, different from most other animals. And what else do I want to say today? I think we're coming down to a close. The highest form of human intelligence is to observe yourself without judgment. Stop judging yourself. Oh, please, dear one, stop judging yourself. When you judge yourself and then you kind of get in bad habits and you judge everybody, it doesn't get us very far. Oh, it looks like I have something here. This is Dalai Lama trying to make a mean face and he's not very good at it. Oh, here we go. I knew I would have this fierce love. It reminds me of the latest Wonder Woman movie. She demonstrates this fierce love very well. An epic analogy available in the scene linked to fierce love. Spoiler alert, though. I dream of the day when we can all take off our armor. I prescribe you to watch this therapeutic film depicting the fierce love compassion combination in the setting of World War II. Movie medicine, I like to call it. I had a Facebook page called Movie Medicine that was fully deleted and censored without any recourse during the COVID times. So there was a lot of good stuff on there. But anyways, I don't think I'll ever reproduce it, but I'm pretty consistent. It comes up when it needs to. I do not think this fierceness is natural, but we do not live in a natural environment for humans. Yet, I do not condone violence, but if each individual could take the necessary time to search their soul and strike up some courage, they would likely come up with some right now actions that could be taken personally. The more that do this, the merrier we all will be. And I think I've clicked onto this, the more we get together. It's not a very good YouTube version of it either. Together, the more we get together, the happier we'll be. When your friends are my friends and my friends are your friends, the more we get together, the happier we'll be. I learned that in kindergarten. How about you? Anyway, my expression in this one from Bentino could be considered a description of unconditional love, which naturally results in compassion. I do not feel it can be reached as fully via duality mindset, two-point logic, but requires collaboration over competition, multi-dimensional mindset, four-point logic. When I first experienced this in a holistic way, I was locked up, chemically incarcerated, epically misunderstood. Okay, tears are coming for loving too much. That's one way to look at that little scene, but anyway. Here I live, and here I'm writing this 5 years ago, so it must have been 2017. Lots of time to integrate my experiences, along with educate myself about viable alternatives. Speaking of the current compassion I'm swimming in, a summary came to me. And this is kind of the big message here. Others are intolerant of my lack of intolerance. I am challenged to tolerate the intolerance of others. So that's circa 2017 Angèle. This is how I felt about things. Others were intolerant of my lack of intolerance. I am challenged to tolerate the intolerance of others. That's a bit of a nutshell statement for me. And how do I feel about that now? I'm just taking out my pendulum. Is that true now? Yeah, I think it's still true. I'm just a little more at peace with it. But anyways, my expression today here feels like a love letter to a lot of key people in my life, perhaps everyone I've ever interacted with. I tried to pick out key people, but the list just got longer and longer. Every interaction I've ever had led me to this mindset I now feel is the most authentic one for me. Not an illness, but a viable alternative mindset. I think our words and how we label ourselves, and I never took on that label. Someone tried to put a sticker on me, but I have a viable alternative mindset. I don't mind the word neurodivergent, but that's probably a little bit overstated. But anyway, I can go into a more typical mind. I am aware of the mindset because I held the mindset. So I know all about the mindset that many people still hold. And they would not know mine because, yeah, unless they're willing and interested and curious. And not to say they don't need to learn mine. I just want you to remember who you are. Remember who you are. As I continue to coalesce with like-minded people, it will look less and less strange to the former mindset. I guarantee this. My life is my experiment and my letter of unconditional love. Too much love? Is there such a thing? Can I be understood optimally? I feel yes, when and if others are willing to receive my best attempts at explaining why I am the way I am. It can look strange to the uninitiated. I tease myself here, but to me, it is beautiful, yet kind of weirdiful too. Oh, yeah, and that weirdiful song, yeah. Sometimes I feel my life is a big cosmic joke. It makes me laugh, cry, complex feeling. Okay, I'm curious. What is that again? What is oh, love hang drums. Hang drums are just such a beautiful instrument for me. Yeah, this like multi-dimensional, like no one word could describe these complex feelings. Feelings. I now notice that I ended up not including anything particularly personal. I was going to include a long list using nicknames, some select conceptual details of my interpersonal challenges, which I kind of did verbally here today, but only a small, just the one that I really remembered, and the one that really did inspire this article. But in the end, it did not feel necessary. I will honor my own discomfort in this and the privacy of those I care about. It is just fine. I am human after all. If it speaks to you, you were probably on the list. Ha ha. All bold. And I just, yeah, a reminder that everything in bold is a link to something. And I don't even always remember what they are, but sometimes I do. And falling off the edge. So we are going to close that down. We listened to that. We read that. Okay, yeah. So I had picked out a few songs from my Joker's Wild, the school song. I think I'm just going to talk about it. I don't want to get the school song is just a really, really clever and amazing creation. I mean, Roald Dahl is an amazing writer. Someone made a live music theater about his story, and then Netflix now has this movie, and I love this movie. It's so great. There's four, I think, quite a number of their songs. I just love it. So this school song is kind of a different version of the ABCs, but it's also talks about, kind of gives a great big middle finger, double middle finger to the whole education system. I mean, it's a very much a parody. It's absolutely exaggerated, but sometimes things have to get exaggerated for for the purposes of making a point. So it really puts a pretty big poke at the educational system that has entrained in, they call it educate, but really you could call it program. They programmed our subconscious minds. And now it's a lot of work to deprogram our subconscious minds. Okay, here's one I can play. The 30 Helens Agree. I queued it up. There's going to be two that we're going to watch. This 30 Helens Agree went on Kids in the Hall. It's a Canadian comedy show from like the 80s, maybe. I used to watch it whenever I could get onto it, but I don't remember 30 Helens Agree. And I got reminded of this. And then I had to look it up. I'm like, what? Kids in the Hall, 30 Helens Agree? I don't remember that. So this would have been a little tiny snippet in between two of their skits, kind of like SNL Canadian style. But just goes to show, no wonder I am the way I am. Just being raised in Canada and our sense of humor, it's hilarious. Okay, listen to this. And this is some advice for my Remember Who You Are video. Listen to this.
30 Helens Agree.
If you remember something, that's what pens are for.
30 Helens Agree. Pens are good.
Although pencils are good in case you make a mistake.
30 Helens Agree.
Great minds think alike.
But so do bargain hunters.
Yeah, you've got to get to sales early.
Yeah, it's a real jungle out there unless you're wily.
30 Helens Agree. Great minds think alike.
Okay, didn't you like that? If you want to remember something, write it down. What has Angel been doing? Trying to remember herself, and she wrote some stuff down. I just freaking laughed my head off. And the only reason I came across this video is there's this guy named Tyler. He calls himself three different things. There's Tyler Bucket, and there's Tyler something, and there's Tyler something. One of them is a channel looking at Canadian culture. One is looking at the culture in the UK, and one is looking at culture in Norway. So somehow I could see that he was looking at Kids in the Hall, and I thought, oh, let's see what Tyler Bucket says about Kids in the Hall. So that's, so it's just funny how things come to you. But anyway, Kids in the hall, yeah, kids in the hall. And I am smoking. I pulled this up, but I think we've gotten too long. This picture, I really like this. No one wants to get crucified, right? That just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So, anyways, I was being a bit edgy and silly. This was called I Am Smoking. And there's a lot of things in there. You got to be a rebel. Look at Tigger. You got take what do you call mugshot of Tigger? Anyway, that's not going to get to. Oh, and here's a song I'm going to take my chances with.
One day I wanna wake up wondering where the time go. One day I wanna be stuck with the pants from a place that will make no time for. It's been a minute, yeah, we talk about life, but I wanna live it. I wanna live it with you.
Anyways, that's a cute little song. And Walk Off the Earth is a lovely duo. I've heard them live at the Edmonton Folk Fest, but they have this really cool kid singing this version, but they also do it themselves. Like the man and the woman are singing this song. But I really love it when little kids' voices sing to me and give you like really good, because I guess as I kind of said earlier in this video, like the wisdom of our kids, let's listen to it. Like I think it was just so fun. And it just brings families together. Like there's the generation gap is really hurting my heart, after the protein particle issue, like the 2020 to 2023 era, or the protein particles, which was what I call it. But anyway, you know what I mean. And then yeah, we're not going to be playing that. Let's see. I wanted to just point out this video. I'm kind of going back in time with everything, stuff I've known and felt and even put on paper a long, long time ago. Here's a leading edge video for me. What is magic? Q&A with Aurora. Professor Aurora, I think I mentioned in a recent video. So this YouTube channel, The Desert Landley, all it is her discussions with Aurora. But this particular one I just finished yesterday, and it's 3 hours long, and I listened at 1.5, so that took a while. It took many days. I guess it was over a week ago. But anyways, everything she says, I really, really love how she just speaks so fluidly, so clearly. And again, I talked about Layla and her presence, the presence of Aurora. I mean, there might be a few things that she could say that might be a little jarring for you, but honestly, she speaks for me. This is just such a beautiful about what is magic. I don't even know if we should try and listen. I know I won't get censored for this. Let's just randomly do this and see what happens.
And that the people that have been elevated into office are put into those positions as a direct result of the manipulations of emotional energy and the subtle realm. That's it. That's the truth of it. And everything else is just like the icing of justification on top of the cake of truth.
Okay, well, you know what? That's not a bad soundbite. Merci beaucoup, Aurora, Professor Aurora. And a song that we all know is the Redemption Song, originally by Bob Marley. And I really love, like, sometimes a cover, I like it better than the original, and sometimes the other way around. In this case, like, these songs are so different and distinct because I really enjoy Bob Marley's version of the Redemption Song, but I don't think I really heard the words until I listened to Johnny Cash's version. And I was just talking about this with my niece, Anna, and she was saying, like, Johnny Cash, he somehow, when he covers a song, take it seriously and maybe give it a listen. I'm actually planning to look into Johnny Cash covers because and I'm also going to emphasize some of the, we're going to do a blip. Let's see what happens.
Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Have no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it. We got to fulfill the book. So won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever had, redemption songs.
Really hoping I'm going to get away with that one. We'll see what happens. That was a little bit long, but la 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 la. I am going to stop my share. Okay, there we are. I am going to sign off. It is November 12th, 2024. Remember who you are. Please, please, my darlings, please, please. What can I do? What can I do? What can I do? Could I be of assistance? Oh, there's tears coming to my eyes. I can be of assistance. I have been reluctant, and I'm sorry for that. There's a context for that. Yeah. Blessings.